All right, hello, fellow entrepreneur. Welcome to the channel. I've been running Shopify stores for years now. I have run my own Shopify stores. I have been part of larger teams that run massive Shopify stores. And so I know the difference in using very sophisticated bookkeeping software or using free software. And I want to tell you some stories about what I did when I first started out compared to what massive enterprise use when they have 1 million sales and they need to keep track of all this stuff, and they need to do it very effortlessly and seamlessly and cost effectively. So where this will start is if we're in the Shopify ad, we can go over to our analytics, go over to our reports page. When you are using any sort of accounting software or app, you're going to want to get used to the reports page. Now, as you can see, as I'm scrolling around, there are 1,000,000,001 reports here. And depending on the Shopify plan you have, you can get more sophisticated report. For example, one report that I didn't even know existed when I was starting out my own Shopify stores, but was extremely popular when I was working for a much larger organization that ran multiple Shopify stores, was sales by discount. So we would need the sales by discount report a lot. And so if you have a report that you need a lot, you can just click pin here on the left. And then if you go back, the report that you need is just pinned to the top. You can pin your most common 2, 3, 4, 5 reports at the top. And this sale by discount report, I think, is only available on the advanced Shopify plan right now. So let's start at the very beginning. When you are just starting your Shopify store and you have no sales coming in and you're just starting out, but you do want to keep track of your orders and your products and everything. What I used to do when I was just starting out is I used to just write everything down on an Excel doc. Remember in high school when you took business or accounting, or maybe you didn't, there's basically 2 types of accounting. There is cash-based accounting, and then there's something called accrual accounting. So cash-based accounting is essentially you just write every single time you get money or you spend money, and you just write it down in a very simple Excel sheet. Accrual accounting is kind of one step up from cash-based accounting. So for example, if you buy 1 peach with cash, your cash goes down, but your inventory goes up because you now have acquired 1 peach using a little bit of money. That's the difference between cash-based and accrual accounting. So when you're just starting out, that's how I did it. It's free. You have very limited transactions coming in. And when you're just starting out, you need to keep your expenses as absolutely low as possible. So this worked for me for a few months, a year. It really wasn't that big a deal. And if you're worried about accounting, you can do it that way. You could go online and you can download small business Excel accounting templates or Shopify bookkeeping templates, and you can get them for free, saving you a lot of expenses. Now, one step up from just writing your things down in an Excel document that I personally use is this thing called Wave apps. Again, I'm not sponsored by this. What I like doing on this channel is just helping fellow entrepreneurs of all different skill levels, but mainly beginners, to give them context of what to expect as they start to scale up their business. Considering I've been running Shopify stores for years and years now, is a great way to accelerate your learning curve. So what Wave apps is, it's an accounting software that it's also free. Okay, so we have 2 tiers right now. We have just writing your things down in Excel, which works very, very well and is free and is not complicated. Then if you need something a little bit more sophisticated and something to help you with time management, you can use a free kind of bookkeeping accounting software like Wave, for example. The thing that makes Wave stand out is that it truly is like free. Again, I'm not sponsored or anything. I'm just literally telling you how I did this when I was first getting started. And it stuck out because it literally is like free. There's 2, there's one for invoicing and there's one for accounting. And then of course there's a bunch of paid services for different tiers, but we're just talking about beginners, and you can get a free account that is free like this. This is interesting because it does a lot more than our Excel sheet up here, but it doesn't do everything. That's why they're advertising different tiers, and there's paid versions, and we'll get into that in 1 second. But this is one step up from writing your things down in an Excel document. It is free, so it keeps your expenses low as possible, especially in your first year when you're just trying to survive your first year. In e-commerce and small business, the percentage of businesses that close down and don't make it through year 1 is so high. So if you're watching this video and you're brand new to Shopify, just try to get through your first year with as limited expenses as possible. And if you can get through your first year and you're still in business and you still have the passion and the drive for your business, you are way ahead of the curve, and you are in the very small percentage of people that can do that. So congratulations if you are. This is just another way of keeping your expenses as low as possible when you're just starting out. When I first started out, it's pretty decent. It does like 75% of the things you need. And I'm saying that because I've seen what other ones have done, other paid services do, and I'm comparing that and what I know now to what these free versions do. But if you're just starting out, this free version will be more than enough for you. However, there's a big caveat, and I want to talk about this next. So far we've talked about tier 1, which is just writing things down, either cache-based or accrual-based in Excel, in an Excel template for free when you're just starting out. Then tier 2, something a little bit more sophisticated than this, is using Wave, for example, because it has a completely free plan, unlike these other ones. That's the second one. Wave, I use that when I was starting out. Then the third tier, that's a horrible 3, but the third tier is when you start to pay a little bit of money. This is why things like NetSuite or QuickBooks, obviously you must have heard of FreshBooks, also Xero is integrated heavily with Shopify. These are where these paid versions come into play. So it's not free. So we're moving down the tier list here, and we're onto the third tier where your business is scaled, you have customers, you have recurring revenue, you have a lot of transactions coming in, and you need something even more for time management. You're paying a little bit of money to get some of your time back. That's essentially what these all these types of things and apps do. Now, there's a whole bunch of accounting softwares like FreshBooks, like QuickBooks, and Xero, again, integrates with Shopify. I'm not sponsored by any of these, but what happens when you move from tier 2 to tier 3 is this. This is a story I want to tell you. When you're using, for example, Wave, and you start to get to a point where you are using an accountant for your taxes or your accounting software, a lot of the time, the accountant uses software like NetSuite, like QuickBooks, like FreshBooks. And so if you aren't using the same kind of software, your accounting fees can go up, because when you are using an accountant, they charge a flat rate, and then they also charge per hour. So if your accountant, if your accountant requests a lot of files and you give them your files that you have from Wave or from Excel, and they have to take a lot more time to convert their files into their software that they use, this will increase your expense because it increases the hour they are spending on you. This is why this is a big shift from tier 2 to tier 3, because this is what happened in my experience. I was using Wave and my businesses started to scale quite large, and we had to give our Wave books to our accountant who was not using Wave but was using FreshBooks, or it might have been QuickBooks. I think it was QuickBooks actually. Because Wave is free, it doesn't give you everything, understandably, and it doesn't give the proper file formats and the proper filing system. So because we were giving our Wave files to our accountant who was using FreshBooks, this increased our hourly expense a lot. Took them a long time, and we didn't really know this at the time, but we got the bill in the end and we were understanding what happened here, and it was because the conversion took so long. So if you are having a business and you have a lot of orders and you need to use a software, these are not that expensive. You know, they're all very competitive against each other. They usually offer free trials, and there's different tiers as well, you know, like $9 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month. It's all about where your business is in terms of scaling, you know. A lot of these also offer apps on the App Store, which can help you decide if you want to use Xero or Zoho Books or QuickBooks or FreshBooks or anything like that. But there's a bunch of companies kind of in this third tier. So if you're in this third tier or thinking of coming out of the second tier and going into third tier, do your research and find out which is best for you. Because this third tier will cost you some money because your business has scaled up. But because your accountant is not spending so much time and hours converting from Wave, for example, your second tier platform, your overall expense is going to go down. So your business is in a position where you are paying a little bit of money for your third tier accounting software, but your accountant fees have decreased because of the time saving in this new third tier platform. So this introduces our third tier. So we have, when you're just starting off, you can just use like an Excel template and write down your cash based or your accrual based on your very limited transactions. Then when you start to scale up, you can use something like Wave, which is free. There's no cost to it, but it doesn't do everything. And then once you use your Wave files and send them to your accountant, you might spend a little bit more money in the conversion because the accountant will use a lot more hours. So now we're in our third tier in our business, and we're thinking about using one of these softwares here, which are not free. So there'll be a certain amount of money a month. And if you're at that stage in your business, you're doing really well. And this isn't really seen as a bad thing because you want your books to be clean and you want your taxes to be correct. And using softwares like this that really aren't that expensive when it comes to the bottom line, when you're doing your taxes and your accounting, using a simple software like this is seen as more as like a security, and you're paying a little bit of money to make sure all your bookkeeping is correct. And it's not really seen as a bad expense. It's seen as a good thing once you've made it to there. Now, this is where things get kind of crazy, okay? So when I worked for a business who ran a very big corporation, there was 1 million staff members, and we were all working on just this massive Shopify store. This is when I got introduced to fourth tier. This is kind of crazy. I don't expect any beginner Shopify business owners to go into this fourth tier, but it's fun just to know where this goes. So when you get into fourth tier and you have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of orders that you need to make sure are right, and your books need to be right, and we're talking about hundreds and thousands of dollars of money and millions just going all over the place. There's this fourth tier, and this is where you can get very tailored accounting and bookkeeping service through one-on-one accounting services, private one-on-one accounting services. So because I've been doing Shopify for a long time and I've followed news on the Shopify business for a very, very long time, back in the day, there was a big announcement with this company called Bench. So Bench and Shopify kind of came up with this partnership, I think a few years ago. And this is the software the business I was working for was using. So this is essentially, again, like fourth tier. Don't worry about using this, but this is essentially one-on-one tailored accounting services with your head of accounting to make sure everything works. I don't really know how much this is, but I'm pretty sure it's like thousands and thousands of dollars a session, or thousands and thousands of dollars per hour, honestly, because your books are just so massive. There is a fourth tier of this kind of insanely tailored one-on-one accounting. And again, they have different tiers. It's not like they only sell $1,000 per hour, but the business I was working for, I'm pretty sure it was that. But these types of tailored one-on-one accounting services have lower tiered services. Everything works in tiers for businesses that are maybe on the cusp of third tier or second tier, and they just need something more than QuickBooks or FreshBooks or Zoho or anything like that. So that is my accounting, bookkeeping story time. And no matter where you are in your small business journey, there are always expenses for where you are in your business's journey. So what I would recommend when you're first starting out, keep it extremely simple. No cost whatsoever. Don't spend money on accounting services if you're just starting out and you have no orders. Just write things down just to give yourself the reassurance. Then there's second tier, which you can maybe use Wave like I did, again, because it does almost everything you need. And it's just a little bit better than writing things down, or a lot better than writing things down in an Excel document. Then there's third tier, and there's companies like FreshBooks, QuickBooks, Xero, all kinds of things. And this is where you will start to see that cost per month. You're also paying for gaining some of your time back from using tier one or tier two services. And you're also paying for a little bit of reassurance. And again, remember, you're kind of lowering, in my case, your accounting bill because these things charge per hour. Well, and then you are curious, there is fourth tier, like things like Bench, which are one-on-one, very expensive, tailored for massive, massive corporations that I'm sure you will get to one day, because you're watching this video and you're putting the work in and you're doing a great job. And now you know what to expect now, later, and in the future, depending on where your business goes and how your business scales, and you'll be prepared with a much clearer roadmap than you were before you watch this video. If this video has helped you, leave a like so I know, because I just love helping fellow entrepreneurs with all the experience that I've learned over the years. And if you want to join a free community of like-minded entrepreneurs that are just trying to get better, achieve their dreams, consider subscribing. If you do, I will see you in the next video.